Merry Christmas, everyone. So, I'm doing my next live. So, I am just waiting for my co host. So, we're doing a live about female empowerment. So, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put the title in the comments and wait for my co host, and then we're going to get started. So, there we go. So, we've got one person join. Thank you for joining. Hey, so my co-host has just joined. So I'm just going to add her. Do a little wave to everyone. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good and you?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. How's your morning going? Because it's about 3 p.m. or it's the afternoon now, isn't it?
It's actually afternoon for us. It's 3 p.m. So I've had a very slow morning,
Yeah,
which is great.
yeah. So yeah, so
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just waking up. I usually do lives quite late. I probably yeah, but I'm gonna be okay. Yeah, so I thought we could do this live, and then what we can do start off by just introducing ourselves, and then we've got some
Uh-huh.
so the topics for anyone that wants to know, just to also say this is going to be a 30-minute live. So we're going to be discussing careers and also business, but we're going to be discussing how women can empower themselves in terms of recruitment, negotiating salaries, navigating
Yes.
organizational climate, working with clients, and also what we can do to empower each other, what women can do to empower each other. So should we begin by introducing ourselves? So I'll begin. So my name is Claudine Charles. For anyone who doesn't know me, I run this page called Claudine C. Charles, and my aim of my page is really to help people to build their brands. So it's really, women and men, but it's really anyone that wants to build their brand. We're in the cup of change at the moment, especially in the pandemic. So many businesses are going online, and we kind of need to be there. And I think especially women, we need to be there because so many things are changing. And I think a lot of things are going to be moving online. I was just talking to a friend who's just saying that she's launching an online business in the new year this morning. So many people are doing it. So we all have to be at the forefront of that. So that's why it's really, yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of the purpose of my page. But on the day to day, I work in learn development. So I work with clients, designing learning courses, learning programs, anything to do with developing their people in the corporate environment. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So thanks for having me as well. I'm quite excited to be here. This topic is definitely very close to my heart.
Yeah.
But first, just to sort of tell you a little bit about me as well. So I am an HR business partner. So I work for an international company. I do many things. I'm in the gender space. I part of that is I manage the payroll for the entire company. So that includes countries such as Kenya, Zambia, United States, South Africa.
Oh, okay.
I also work with policies as well. But that's just a bit of what I do. So in summary, I basically solve problems in the business.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my day job. My real passion is my own business that I run, and that is Lubna HR. And what I do is I provide career guidance. So it's also sort of tied into what you do in terms of learning and development as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I do many things with that. But I think the three main focus areas is firstly, I develop CVs for people to help them market themselves better. So we were busy talking about also, I think part of our conversation is about people understanding themselves.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot in the CV business or in the career guidance business or space as well. I also coach people in terms of preparing for interviews. And also there is another aspect where we can talk about, what we've sort of found in that industry. And I've been on both ends, so I've used my experience to provide guidance to people. And then the third thing I do is I write many articles being published on different platforms. It's also part of my initiative to kind of to spread knowledge, because that's sort of my passion. And part of what you do is also like learning and development as well. And in that, I've kind of been involved with various initiatives like guest lecturing at UCT, which is one of the top universities in Africa, and also been on radio and so forth. So that's actually, in a nutshell, what I do.
Yeah, that's quite a lot though. So that's you seem to be very yeah. So yeah, let's get started. So we're talking about female empowerment. So let's start off really for people who are employed. How can they empower themselves? So the first topic was around recruiting and searching for roles. So what can you would say? What was the best approach in the nutshell for people who are employees, who are women, who are looking for roles? How can they really empower themselves and kind of take a lead in that?
Well, so I have to say that in my experience, I found that a lot of people, especially women, but not only women, and I want to actually make that clear as well, is that a lot of people struggle to sort of market themselves, and they really undersell themselves. And that comes from an innate feeling of not maybe feeling good enough or not feeling confident enough about the role. And so I think like the biggest point of advice that I can give people is to firstly know your worth, and once you know your worth, you're more likely to be able to sell yourselves when it comes to looking for jobs and marketing yourselves as well. And I think that just to sort of add to that, I think that I also want to remind people that we are in the midst of a pandemic. So to also be cognizant of that and not to be too hard on yourself if you are sort of in the job market and you're struggling to find jobs and you're just finding that people are not getting back to you. I can also tell you that many companies have sort of frozen recruitment at the moment because of the pandemic and because of how it's sort of impacted their businesses. So it is a quite tough time to sort of be in the job market right now.
It's very different in the UK. To a certain extent, there is a lot of people that are struggling. There is less jobs. I've been speaking to people that I know in my networking recruitment, and they're saying why reason it's different is because of Brexit, when we were coming out of Europe, that was tough. People didn't know whether or not they were in or out. That was really tough. So now, because we went for a whole year where recruitment was frozen because people didn't know if they were in Europe, out of Europe, if they need to get rid of their European staff or whatever. So now they can't stop. They have to keep on going. So businesses are going a bit more. But I will say in terms of so thank you, audience. BD, she says hello. So good morning. So that's resume revive. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up with all the comments, but hello everyone that's joined. So basically, in terms of like female empowerment, one of the things that I always say right when people are looking for roles is definitely know your worth, but also take a risk sometimes. I find that especially in the UK, I don't know if it's other women do this, I find that with women, we always tend to go for jobs where, for instance, it's maybe a more senior role, or it matches our salary, or it's a bit more than our salary. And I've said to women to be ambitious. One of the things that I did is really just say what I want. And when I started saying what I want and what I was, like you were saying, what I deserve and what I'm earned and what I should earn and what I'm valued, that's when I started actually, people started responding. Because when you say what you're worth, people can't really go against that because you're saying that's what you're worth and that's what you're willing to stand up for. And and when you do that, people always then they will always kind of, some people will say, no, I'm not going to pay that much. But if you kind of stand your ground, and I find that men are better than that, doing that than women. I find that women kind of, even when I remember when I've had a family member that gets bonus and works in investment banking, and they always said that women used to be like, oh, thank you for the bonus, and the men used to always stamp their feet. Even if they've got a big bonus, they will always say it's not enough, so that people always think this person thinks they're more than that. And I find that sometimes we say thank you rather than, no, actually I deserve more. And I think we need to kind of have those conversations where we're saying we deserve more and we should actually be getting more. Yeah,
I completely agree with you with that. And it seems to be like a universal thing. I don't know if you're familiar with Sheryl Sandberg. She's the CEO of Facebook. She's written a book called Lean In, which I've just read recently as well. And she actually also goes into that, and she talks about how she also, when she was applying for the role at Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg, and how even then she was like so elated to be offered a role. And when she was speaking to, that she was so scared to jeopardize getting the role, that when she was speaking to sort of her brother or brother-in-law and her husband, they kept on saying, no, you should go back and ask for more. And she said like there was like this sense of fear, like almost coming across as if she's not grateful or almost losing the job. And also, then she actually also talks about how she's learned from that experience that men are more likely to sort of ask for more and not just accept, and sort of know that they are worth it. And I'm not saying that men don't struggle with that, but I have to also say that from what I've seen and from what you're saying and from also what I've read as well, that women are less likely to sort of ask for more. And that is sort of a mindset. And I wonder, actually, I wonder if it's to do with how we were raised, like, sort of being taught that, don't speak up, or, to be grateful for what we have. And also, I think, to like probably being scared of coming across as aggressive. Absolutely. And I think that it's sort of something that we also need to sort of encourage, and because if the same sort of traits are displayed in men, we are okay with it. But if we see women that are like aggressive, we can say she's very bossy, or she's ungrateful. So I do see that. I do believe that it's a mindset that needs to change. And I also think that that's something that we as women need to start doing first in ourselves. We can't expect handouts, and we can't expect people to know what our worth is until we ourselves know that and sort of demand being treated in a specific way.
And I agree with that. I do find that there's a lot of, women, sometimes they've had a lot of studies in the UK looking at the gender pay gap, and there's a big pay gap and there's a big diversity pay gap, and that is really just because of the arts in, even like I've worked with people who would, men who would actually investigate how much are people getting paid, whereas I think sometimes it depends on the role, sometimes, also as well, women have to be realistic. And I always say, when you look at a job description, if you can do 60% of the role, then you should go for it. Sometimes I find that people want to do 100%, whereas sometimes men only want to do 40. Because sometimes what happens with a lot of roles, it's about selling the role to you. So they're selling the role and making it attractive. So a lot of time you go into the job and it doesn't look like that job. So sometimes you see a role and you think, I can't do that role. That role is really hard. But you go in and then you. So I think sometimes we have to go. Put women in employment, if they see a role and they think it's really difficult and challenging, just go for it, because I think that sometimes the roles are oversold to be attractive. So what would you, because we've got another 15 minutes, so I'm just thinking, so are you just going to raise a point there before we move on to navigating the organised environment?
Yes, so I also find the same thing, but I also, on that point, I have to say, I think it's also us being sort of hard on ourselves and wanting to be perfect and wanting to like be 100% sure before we sort of go for a role. But I think that it's also important to know that even if it is punching above your weight, the only way you're going to learn to go get those skills is by doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so to not be afraid to take that leap and to try, and that's sort of how you learn. And yes, it might be punching above your weight for the first few months, but that's how you learn, and that's how you gain those skills.
You get on that learning curve, don't you? Yeah, and that's what's interesting. If we keep on going for jobs that we think we can do, then you're never going to climb or be challenged. And the next point we're discussing before we go on to working in business is around navigating the organisational climate. And I always say, like, when you work in organisations, and sometimes I've been criticised for it, even when I'm self-employed, working in an organisation, going into assignments, but not necessarily by senior management, by employees. I always dress for the job that I want to be in. I dress for the job that I am in. And, in terms of navigating the organisation, I hold myself and I carry myself as someone that is very professional, someone that's very, when I used to be an employee, I think when I came self-employed, I was more likely to challenge more because I had nothing to do. I worked for myself. When you work for someone else, you kind of don't challenge. But I think if I was an employee, I would say to myself, it's actually really to challenge appropriately. But, you know, sometimes women don't want to challenge because they don't want to, again, be seen as aggressive. But I think there's almost, you know, the people that are, the women are the ones that challenge and challenge appropriately are the ones that get into senior management roles. And then even as we're the ones that end up calling those people, you know, the BITCHs, but really they're just standing their ground, and, you know, and that's how they're successful.
That's true. And I think also, I think that there's sort of a double standard here. And it's very subtle that if we see sort of a male boss being aggressive and stuff, we don't say that he's being difficult, or we wouldn't call him an equivalent of that BITCH.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when we see, yeah, and I think, and that's not men, that's women actually putting other women down by sort of labeling them in that way.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. You don't see the meek people up on top. You actually see the people that are able to sort of stand their ground, that are able to make decisions, that are assertive. Those are the types of people that move up the career ladder.
Yeah.
And not the people that are keeping quiet. So it doesn't pay to be agreeable.
Yeah, and I think as well the way we term it, because a lot of the time women will be saying that these people are aggressive, but they're not necessarily aggressive. They're assertive and they're standing their ground. But then we say that they're aggressive, but really they're just standing on their own 2 feet. Whereas if a man stands on his own 2 feet and actually does articulates what he wants and says that with confidence, you know, we won't necessarily think of it. We think, oh, okay, let me listen to that person, rather than why let me judge that person.
Yes. So, but it's something that we need to actually be aware of, and understand what our sort of stereotypes and our biases are, and work on those things.
Yeah. So now we're going to move on to onto business. So we're talking about careers as employees, but also working in business, which we both have experiences in, and that's really around kind of how you search. Broadly, not going into tips and tricks, but broadly, what kind of mindset you should have when you're searching and you're trying to gain new assignments. And one of the things that I have always, and I've had this experience recently, is around trying to get new clients. It's also, again, about standing my ground. I've been I'm working with a client specifically on a long-term contract, which is just coming to an end. And I've been, looking and reaching out to my network to get some more clients. And I found as well, sometimes I've been going for assignments and saying what I'm worth, what the assignment's worth, and what just evaluating it. And sometimes people have tried to knock down my price, and they've been trying to make things challenging for me. And I find that one of the things that I've always done is that I always say I would rather not be an assignment than be an assignment that's not what I'm worth. I always go for the money that I deserve, even if there's a bit of a gap, because I find that if you go for assignment that's not what you're worth, there's always going to be one round the corner. So sometimes it's always about being brave and not being fearful of anything, and just really go for what you're worth, because sometimes you don't, and you think, oh, okay, let me just do this to bring the money in, and there's something around the corner. So I think even around kind of searching and negotiating with clients, I would always say, always stand your ground. And the assignment that I was just on, they didn't want to pay me that much, so I just said, okay, see you later. But they might search around for someone else, but I know that I can do the work and to the high standard. So I think definitely around gaining assignments, it's really important to kind of have that stand your ground. What would you say?
So and that's where I agree with you as well. I think sometimes there is room for flexibility. So if they've only got a specific budget, then my approach should be, okay, fine. For that budget, this is how much I can do. This is how much time I can take.
Yeah.
You can let me know if you want a little more. So so in terms of negotiating, it's sort of also giving them the option to say, I'm sorry, this is my worth. This is what my time is worth. This is what I can bring to the table for that. And if you're interested in that, then go for it. But I also agree, like, it's also about, you're not running a charity either. So it's also about, just knowing that balance between, knowing sort of, what is a reasonable negotiation and what is it where people are just sort of taking advantage.
Yeah, and I think the key word is reasonable negotiation, because the client I was talking to said, okay, this is how much we got, this is the budget, what can you do with it? And, even when I told them what they could do with it, they still kept on adding. So I think sometimes, some people want to go back. And this was actually a woman that did this to me, so I was a bit disappointed. And, we had built a good relationship. But, yeah, when I was, I told her what, I could do with the money. She wanted to add more and more. But I think it's also about her wanting to be seen very positively with her superiors and say, hey, I've got this person for this amount of money. But even when I was working in-house and I was hiring people, I would always think to myself, okay, this person's got a mortgage to pay, this person, and then it's about what the person's worth. It's about the piece of work, but, I'm not going to take the mick out of them, because they are human beings and they are running a business, and you can't necessarily do that. So I think you also have to have a bit of a moral compass when you're working with people.
So I can tell you what I also do in my business as well is, like, people come to me for help, but they're actually struggling or they don't really have the financial means. That's where my free sort of articles and I can point them in the right direction. And I say, okay, fine. There are articles that I've written. You can follow that advice. It's going to help you in your career. It tells you how to sort of position yourself. It provides great creatives. And that's also where our Instagram pages come in as well. A lot of what we've sort of learned is from each other's pages as well. And, so it's a source of knowledge that people can draw from. And if they really are struggling and not by the means to get those services, there are other ways of benefiting as well.
Yeah, and I think that's especially the case when you're working with B2C, so working directly with individual clients. When you're working corporate, sometimes they're not going to want that. It's either you buy what they buy or they don't. But I think definitely with if it's like individual clients, then point them to your free products, point them to your business pages. But always say, and I've written posts about this, and probably even more, especially as we're coming into the pandemic. I was talking to my sister about shares and stocks earlier on, because they're going to be that's going to be big on Monday. There's going to be a big boom, because they're really making money in this pandemic. So but one of the things that you have to do is invest, and this is a time to invest. This is a time where we're almost like at the .com. This is a time when people are building online businesses, and that's why I built my online. So a lot of the time, if people don't know or they're puzzled about how to grow their business, this is a time to invest and find out the strategies, because there's people that are coming up behind and they're going to invest and they're going to go ahead. And, it's like when I say with Instagram and YouTube, there were people there from the start, and a lot of them now don't have really good pages, but they were there from the start, and that is why they built their audiences. And this is a time, I think, with online, the way the world is working, everything is going online. So this is time to grow, and that's what I'm doing in my business, and I'm sure you're doing that in your business. So, it's definitely, we're in the cup of change at the moment. But what would you say as well, because we did say that one of the things we were talking about is about women supporting each other, because I do find that is a big challenge. I think some of the biggest challenge I've had with other women in my career. So what would you like to say about that?
So I can actually also speak from experience there as well. One of my biggest opportunities came from a male boss as well. I've also been in situations where working under women, where sort of when they spot that you have potential, instead of trying to help you or mentor you, they limit the opportunities, career opportunities they'll provide you, because they're afraid that you're going to overtake them. And I think that that's a very limiting view or limiting way to see the world. I'm very fortunate now. I have a manager that is extremely supportive, that is not threatened by success, that sort of also, we've sort of helped each other grow and develop. And I really believe that that's a good example of what it's like to be a role model in this field, especially if you are a woman. I think that's sort of my message, but that's sort of my story. But my message around that is that we need to stop being threatened by each other and stop seeing each other as competition. Because my manager now, instead of seeing me as competition, sees me as, as an ally, and together we sort of help each other and work well together, and we're just stronger together. And I think that you could have, even though it's a career, it's sort of, I see there's a thumbs up there.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though it's that's, I think that even though it's, it's not only career advice. I don't think that only applies in careers as well. I feel like it's sort of a more general thing that we, when we see each other as competition, and we don't work together, we are sort of divided in what we do.
Yeah,
and even in terms of businesses, supporting other businesses as well, female businesses, when we sort of work together and when we support each other, we just build each other up. We both get better.
Yeah.
But when we see each other as competition, we're trying to undercut each other. We're just making it more difficult for ourselves.
Yeah, I think there's so many divisions in everything. That in this world, race, sex, different people in companies, and I think we always say your network is your net worth, and I think that is so key. And I think there's so many different people and groups that kind of need to come together and just build each other up, and that's what I always say on my page. So in my business at the moment, on this page, I'm supporting people who work in the learning and development field and people development, HR development field, to build their brands online, and I work in that field. So I could be saying to myself, why am I building up my competitor? Whereas I know that there's so many different pages, like there's social media coaches, there's Instagram growth coaches, as you know, career coaches. But you're all going to resonate with different people. You're all going to have different audiences, and you might even have overlaps between your audiences. And it's like a supermarket. You might have 5 supermarket chains in your country, but you might have people that are loyal to certain supermarket chains. You might have people that go to 2 or 3, and that's the same with anything. Dentists, doctors, and that's how we kind of have to think about our careers, and we have to think about our businesses. That they are, what you can do is build yourself together. Even in the pandemic, we've seen like Burger King and McDonald's kind of merging and adverts together, because you will have audiences that this whole divisive thing. Okay, you can trash, people will trash their competitors, but I think as well it does make people look bad. So I think it's really important just to kind of build people up and be supportive of each other and empower each other. And that people will resonate with different people, will attract different audiences. So there's no kind of, you don't have to see people as a competition, because we all are personal brands. We all bring our own different personalities, and that's what attracts people to us. And once people work with people they know, want and like, and it doesn't matter how great their page is and looks, how big that their videos and carousels and their lives are. It's about the actual person. People work with people, and that's what we have to always remember. So so that's why we should really support each other.
That's true. And also it actually, like you say, at the end of the day, it's the brand that people go for. It's the individual behind that brand that people go for. So it also doesn't make sense to sort of be competitive with each other if we all are sort of in a similar boat. But instead, it's a very narrow mindset to have, because if you think about it, I might find a similar page that's doing the same things that I'm doing, but we can still learn from each other. I might be good at one aspect of business, and they might be good at another aspect, and sort of we collaborate. We can leverage off our knowledge and then learn together and be, sort of develop further. But if we see each other as competition, and the reason why I say it's a very narrow kind of view is because then you're also limiting yourself to learn from other people as well.
And I also believe that what you put out into the world comes back to you. So if you see everyone as your competition, they will be your competition. And the universe is very the universe is very positive, and it actually helps us. So at the end of the day, if we say this is how the world is, the universe will respond and say, yeah, exactly, you said that's how the world is. Okay, I'm going to make it how the world is, because it's very kind of receptive to what we want. And sometimes we put things out in the world that we don't want, and we think it's what by accident. And I think it's really about your mindset. So if you think people are, competitive, the world will say, okay, yeah, okay, they are competitive. Wait, I'm going to mirror what you want, what you're saying. So we need to always kind of just put out what we want into the world.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. And I actually want to just add to that, actually, to say that besides that is also, in addition to also stop seeing each other as competition, I think that another big piece of advice is to also ally with people that you can trust, and ally with people that have similar vision, of people that you can learn from, and people that actually want to lift you up and want to lift each other up.
yeah.
And also get rid of the people that don't, that are not there. I don't believe in associating with people that are like that, because they could bring you down. Whereas when you are associating with people that are better than you, or wanting to help and wanting to develop with you as well, you can just sort of move up from there.
Yeah.
I see there's a heart for that. I see people are really.
Yeah, so I think we're coming to the end of this live, but what I will say is, before I close, I've just launched a goal setting course and a habit tracking course. So if anyone wants to go in my bio, if they really, what I tend to do is between Christmas and New Year's, I start goal setting and I start strategizing what I'm going to do, not just in business, but across my life. So I have a balance of everything and I'm constantly working towards my goals. And I've been doing that for the past probably 4 years. And every, month I'm setting monthly goals. I'm working towards them, and at the end of the year, at the end of this, between Christmas and New Year's, another thing I'm going to be doing is reflecting on my past year and the goals that I've set and what I've achieved. It's been difficult, I'll admit, this goal setting year with 2020, but I've had some great wins. I'm going to be looking at that. So check out my bio if you want to as well have a formula in terms of how you could start making this year count and start kind of refreshing what you're doing for 2021. So that's in my bio. So I don't know if you've got anything to add before we end.
No, I think that's really great. I think that now is the best time to actually do. I'm also sort of looking at my focus for the next year, and not only for the business but my career and also my personal space as well. It's definitely a good time to do that, and I think it's very valuable. So I'm sure it would be worth to check out your bio as well to see sort of what you have. I think it's a great time to do that right now. And I've also done it and been pleasantly surprised at how many of those things you actually achieve once you put it on paper. You sort of, it gives you direction, and you actually find that you orientate towards achieving them.
I love it. Yeah. It makes life enjoyable, because a lot of the time you just go through life and you're just going through the paces. When you're actually setting out goals and you say, okay, this month this is what I'm working on, and you're doing that every month. You get to the end of the year and you look at all your monthly goals and what you've achieved, and you could say maybe I achieved 50% or maybe 20% one month, but you realize that if I had not started goal setting, I would not have been where I am now. And that's what I learned. And I thought to myself, I need to do this every year. So that's what I started doing. And I really do put strong goals in place and I work towards them. And it means that, I've put, if anyone's not on my page, I haven't put my posts, I've been talking about what goal setting has done for me and how it's kind of helped me in my life. So definitely check out that. Even if you don't go and in my bio, check out kind of what goal settings kind of helped me. But that's my experience. So I think that's bring it to end. But it's been good to speak to you, and I've really enjoyed this live. It's been, like you said, you did say we have a lot to talk about, so I'm pleased that we did. Yeah.
So 50 minutes not going to be enough, but okay.
Yeah, 30 minutes. I was thinking 15 minutes in. We still could be talking for a lot more on. We only kind of really touched on certain subjects, but I know that this is a busy day. It's a week before Christmas for a lot of people. So thank you so much, everyone who's stuck on this call and listen to us, because I know it's a busy day for you. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes, and it's a pleasure, and thank you for having me as well. If anyone sort of wants to connect and chat more about the career, they're welcome to go onto my website, which is lubna.com, or any one of my social media pages, which is lubna_HR as well. And I wish everyone the best for the festive season, and I hope that everyone stays safe as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. And I had a look at your website. It looks really good. I noticed we've got similar colours in the blue.
I think, yeah. I'm also a female-owned business owner. Also doing something on the side that did my website, is amazing as well.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for everyone that stayed on the live, and I really appreciate the time. You know, similar to Luca. If you want to follow me, then please follow me and check out my page, especially stuff around goal setting, because this is the time now. So this is a very exciting time for everyone. We've got it all to play for, as I say.
Okay
then.
Yes, but thanks so much.
Yeah,
thanks for having me, and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you so much. All the best. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.